Every buyer of one of these gets this. It's a book about four-wheel driving. It tells you how to prepare your vehicle, and it tells you how to drive under difficult conditions. Let me now try to do the same. A couple of things to do with preparing for really difficult driving conditions. The first is to do with a unique feature on the Subaru in that you can adjust the suspension height to give yourself more clearance for an extreme situation. Normally, the Subaru has a clearance of 180 millimeters, which is about, 8 inches in the old terms. You can raise it another 30 millimeters by adjusting 2 screws inside the front suspension, one on each side, and you'll have to jack it up to do it, and 1 single screw which you reach just by getting in through the back seat. It's very convenient. That lifts it up. But a word of caution, while that's great to get you out of an emergency, it's intended purely for that use. The second tip is to do with preparing your tyres for conditions ahead. There are 3 main hazards you're going to encounter. You'll strike sand, you may strike rocks, and you may strike mud. Sand, dreadful stuff. I've had more trouble in sand than Lawrence of Arabia. And what you must do is stay on top. Look at the sand before you go in, if it's a creek or if it's a stretch of the Simpson Desert. If it looks powdery or chopped up, drop the pressures before you go in. Only if it's very firm and crusty should you go in with normal tyre pressures. Drive at a constant speed. Select four-wheel drive, say high range in first gear or low range, maybe second, and drive. Try to avoid doing 2 things. Don't turn the steering wheel or you'll plough to a stop. Don't change gear or you might just spin a wheel. And for heaven's sake, don't brake. You want to get out of it, not spend a year there. With rocks, remember that you're driving a car and not a truck. And be like the clever small boxer. Learn how to dodge the blows. And if you see things like this in front, either go around them, or if that's not possible, get out and just clear a path so you can get through. The third hazard, and the most unpleasant of the lot in terms of the way it makes you dirty, in both body and frame of mind, is mud. On muddy roads, keep to the crown. If you get to the side, you'll slip off and then you'll be in trouble. On tracks, follow the wheel tracks. At least you know someone else has got through, but be careful if they're very deep. They might have been left there by a big truck and then you'll get ground up. You may have to straddle those trucks. Now, we're going through water here and there's mud ahead, so we know it's difficult conditions. This is an automatic transmission car. Marvellous advantage with four-wheel drive. All you have to do to get four-wheel drive is just press the button in, the simplest way of engaging it, select low gear, and the torque converter just multiplies the torque and it gives you all the urge you need just to crawl up. From here on in, it's all Subaru and traction. I can even let the wheels go. They'll just follow the ruts. There you are, a real automatic.
Knowing you can cruise through such difficult road conditions literally opens Australia to you, and you can visit some impressive yet rarely seen places.
The Bathurst district is known as being the site of the first real gold strikes in Australia, but there was a big silver mine here. We're at Sunny Corner, which is about 40 kilometres away from Bathurst. And the silver mine here began back in 1884, and it was very productive. In 1 year, they took out more than 19 tonnes of silver, plus a lot of gold and other substances. Of course, it's been out of action for years now. Imagine the labour, though, in those days, 100 years ago, getting the loads out. They could have done with something like the Brumby. This will hold, 400 kilograms of load. It has all the features of the cars in a mechanical sense. It's just as comfortable to drive. Four-wheel drive, of course, with the split range, so you can crawl up these steep slopes in low range. Every day you're let loose on a trotting track, but it's a good chance just to try the Subaru for handling under fairly fast conditions on dirt. Show you how you can slide. Get the tail out, typical front-wheel drive thing, nose in, tail out, easy to control. It's a nice front-wheel drive car. Bring it in close there. You can have a lot of fun. It's a very stable, conventional car. I'll stay in second, come in hard again here. Keep the power on. I'll just lift it through here and let the tail come out. Right, now that's two-wheel drive. Let me just flick it up into four-wheel drive. There we go. See what difference there is. I think it's a bit better, actually, but we'll see. Now, you can still slide, but you've got more control, not as much playing with the wheel. Very easy to control it with four-wheel drive. It does introduce a whole new world of stability.
No matter what the size of your flock, you'll find the Subaru an invaluable asset when the time comes to gather up all the things you hold most valuable. And what other vehicle is so at home on the range or on the supermarket parking lot?
If you go skiing, you'll have seen more Subarus like this special up in the snowfields because it is an ideal configuration to get to the main skiing resorts. In fact, Subaru is now the official car of the Australian ski team. It's a nice outfit, isn't it? I tell you, if you don't speak with an Austrian accent, I don't know. How about warranty? Well, the vehicles are covered by Subaru's new 6-star customer protection plan, which is pretty daring for a four-wheel drive because in essence, it means you can go as far as you like in the first 12 months. There is absolutely no limit on the number of kilometres to be covered. And the booklet is so simple, you'd think something was missing.
The first major service at 20,000 kilometres.
There isn't a lot to be done, and other major services every 10,000 kilometres. Now, all this suggests that it must be an extremely well-made vehicle and supremely reliable. And I know from my own personal experience that this is a fact. Some years ago, I drove a Subaru across Australia in a race with some aircraft, a race that we won, incidentally, and the abiding impression was that the Subaru has to be killed with an axe to stop it. Now, what makes it so reliable? Well, part of the reason is the ruggedness of its construction. There's no point in building a vehicle with loads of traction if every time you take it over rocks or stumps, the sort of terrain that this vehicle will encounter, you knock a hole in the fuel tank or tear off the exhaust system. And this is well protected. The exhaust is out of the way. This cross member here, which holds the differential, it's independently sprung at the back, remember, and the diff is held constantly at a nice high clearance from the surface by this plate. This also acts as a massive protector for the fuel tank, so that's good. These constant velocity joints here on the independent rear end are vulnerable. They're just rubber covered. And there's a clever feature here, which is certainly borrowed from rally experience. These little rubber shields. There are two of them, one here, one you may not see quite so well up here, which just stop the shower of stones coming from the front wheels and causing damage there. That's a good feature. The little nut that we adjusted to raise the suspension, by the way, is just up here, easy to reach from the bottom, also from inside, as you saw. The tail shaft out of the way, doesn't bob around as with an old-fashioned suspension system, so it's not going to get knocked by stones. And because it's inherently a front-wheel drive model converted for four-wheel use, you've got a much simpler transmission arrangement here. Very small, neatly tucked out of the way and supported by this massive cross member. The exhaust system is well protected, and at the front, some more good signs of clever engineering. The constant velocity joint here, again protected by this shield. There's not a heavy, but a very cleverly designed sump shield. It's ribbed for strength, got a couple of holes for cooling, one for access to the sump plug, and the two nuts at the back which hold it in place, they're vulnerable normally and they can be sheared off by rocks, but see how they're tucked up? The shield comes down and you're not going to hit them. You'll hit there, you won't hit them, so they won't get knocked off. And at the front, two little shields here to avoid damage to this very vulnerable part of the car, and over on the side, these two light yet very strong because of the shape shields which stop gravel or water getting up on the car. It's a nice clean design. It's very strong. You can see the size of the components and very cleverly engineered to give maximum protection. More than with most vehicles, this Subaru will inspire owners to travel. And as you can see, there's an extensive network of dealers throughout Australia to look after such people. And bear in mind, they've had more than 8 years' experience in servicing this four-wheel drive vehicle. But they can do more than just carry out service. These are the people to see when you need some of the extensive range of options and accessories which are available for the Subaru four-wheel drive. Let's look at some of those. The list of standard items is extensive, including such things as a rear window wiper. Even so, there are a number of accessories you can get, including the rear window louver and this well-designed and practical roof rack. The alloy wheels are particularly smart. Not only are they lighter and give better brake ventilation, but they do look good, as does the body stripe on the side. That's well made. The two outside mirrors are standard, of course, but a worthwhile option are the mud flaps on the front wheels and the shields over the headlights. You can also get a rear guard or a bull bar, depending on your target, and factory guaranteed fully integrated air conditioning is optional on all Subarus.
So to sum up the Subaru four-wheel drive in 2 words, how about rugged and reliable? Well, yes, that's true, but it's only part of the story. More accurate would be astonishing and versatile, because this make with the odd name is that rarest of all vehicles, a fun wagon that doubles as a true worker and has no real rival on the road or off it. The Subaru now has a challenger, the four-wheel drive Toyota Tercel. Let me do some comparisons.
Now, I want to try the Tercel out just to see how it compares under these conditions. It's a very typical creek crossing. The advantages that the Subaru has, it's got a complete range of low, which this doesn't have. I mean, extra low, but it's not the same. And this vehicle doesn't have quite the same clearance. And they're most important factors in four-wheel driving. Now, let me see.
Just a bit slippery here on the rocks. I'll need to reverse out and try again.
Well, out, but not exactly easy. Well, now for a comparative test. I'm driving the Toyota Tercel, that's the car at the back, and it's really the only true rival that the Subaru has. It's different in a number of ways. It has a 5-speed gearbox with no separate low range, but it does have an extra low gear, and that's what I'm in at the moment. It does feel higher, it feels a bit precarious in fact, and just see which one has the better traction. And I think that's about as far as I'm going to go. Where's the Subaru? Still going. Oh well, this did very well. But now you're going to rub it in by coming back and seeing how I am. Yeah, there's just no comparison.